The alarm blared through the halls of the Galactic Military Academy. Taeho rolled out of his narrow bed and hit the cold metal floor with a thud. His roommate Jin-woo was already up, making his bed with perfect corners. "Late again?" Jin-woo said without looking at him. "Commander Park will not be happy." Taeho pulled on his uniform. The blue fabric hung loose on his thin frame. He was the smallest cadet in his class, and everyone knew it. His boots were too big. His belt needed extra holes, and his helmet wobbled when he walked. "I know," Taeho said quietly. He always knew. Mess hall buzzed with voices. Hundreds of cadets from different planets sat at long tables. Taeho grabbed a tray and got in line behind So-young, the smartest girl in tactical class. "Did you study for the combat test?" she asked. Yes, Taeho lied. He had tried to study, but the combat manuals were thick and full of big words. His mind wandered when he read them. He was better at watching and learning, but the academy did not care about that. At his table, Dongmin was telling everyone about his latest score. 98% on the weapons test, he bragged. The instructor said I could be squad leader. Hajin nodded. I got 95 on engineering. My robot finished the maze in record time. All eyes turned to Taeho. He poked at his food. "What about you?" Dongmin asked with a mean smile. "Let me guess. Another failing grade." 62, Taeho said softly. The table went quiet. Then someone laughed. Soon everyone was laughing. Taeho kept eating, even though the food tasted like metal. "How are you still here?" asked Mikyung, who used to be his friend. "My little brother could do better than you." Taeho did not answer. He finished his food and left. The training ground was a huge dome filled with obstacles. Walls to climb, ropes to swing from, and targets to hit. Commander Park stood in the center, tall and scary in her black uniform. "Today, we test your squad. Work," she announced. "You will be split into teams of 5. Each team must complete the war game scenario." Ho was put on Dongmin's team. The others were Jin-woo, So-young, and Haijin. They were the best students. Taeho was the weak link, and everyone knew it. "Listen up," Dongmin said as they gathered around the planning table. "We need to capture the enemy base and bring back the flag. Jin-woo, you take point. So-young, you plan our route, Haijin. You handle the tech stuff. What about me?" Taeho asked. Dong-min looked at him like he was a broken tool. "Try not to get in our way." The war game began. Their enemy was a team of older cadets, all bigger and stronger. The battlefield was a maze of metal walls and hidden traps. Laser weapons that stung but did not kill. Smoke bombs that made it hard to see. Jin-woo led them forward. His movements were smooth and perfect. So-young called out directions from her tablet. Haijin disabled the electronic traps with her tools. They moved like a machine. Taeho followed. Behind, carrying extra supplies. His job was simple. Do not mess up. But the enemy was smart. They'd set an ambush near the base. Laser fire erupted from 3 directions. Jin-woo dove behind cover. So-young rolled to safety. Jin found shelter. Behind a wall. "Fall back!" Dongmin shouted. "We need a new plan!" They ran. All of them except Tae-ho. He was too slow. A laser bolt hit his leg and he stumbled. The enemy cadets surrounded him. He was alone, trapped, and outgunned. "Give up, little one," called their leader. "Your team left you behind." Taeho looked back. His teammates were gone. They had abandoned him to save themselves. It hurt more than the laser burns, but he did not give up. Tae-ho dropped to the ground and rolled under a low wall. The enemy followed, but he was already moving. It was small and could fit in places they could not. He crawled through a drainage pipe. He climbed up a maintenance ladder. He used paths that bigger people ignored. The enemy lost him in the maze. Now, Taeho was behind their lines. He could see their base. 2 guards stood by the flag, but they were looking the wrong way. They expected an attack from the front, not from a scared cadet who should have given up. Taeho found a broken grate above the base. He squeezed through and dropped down silent as a cat. Red and bright and waiting. He grabbed it and ran. Alarms went off. Shouts echoed through the maze. The enemy was coming for him, but Taeho knew something they did not. He had been watching them during the whole game. He knew their patterns. He knew which way they would go. He took the paths they would not expect. Through the garbage chute, under the training equipment, over the practice walls. He was small and fast and desperate. When he reached the finish line, his teammates were there. They stared at him with open mouths. "How did you?" Dongmin started. Taeho held up the flag. His uniform was dirty. His face was covered in sweat. But he was smiling. Commander Park walked over. She looked at the flag, then at Taeho, then at his teammates who had left him behind. "Interesting," she said. High above the training ground, behind thick glass, 3 figures watched. They were tall and covered in dark armor. Their faces were hidden behind masks, but their eyes glowed with interest. "The small one," said the largest figure. His voice was deep and rough. "He does not break." "The others are stronger," said another. "Faster, smarter, but they run when things get hard," said the third. "He stays and fights." The largest figure leaned forward. "What is his name?" A computer voice answered, "Cadet Taeho, human from planet Earth. Current rank, bottom 5% of his class." "Bottom 5%, the figure repeated. "Yet he completes the mission alone. Should we report this to the War Prime?" asked one of the others. "Yes," said the leader. "The War Prime will want to know about this human, the one who refuses to break." Down in the training ground, Taeho was putting away his equipment. His teammates were talking excitedly about the exercise, taking credit for the victory. They had already forgotten that they left him behind, but Taeho did not mind. He'd learned something important today. Sometimes being small and weak meant you could go places that big and strong people could not. Sometimes being left behind meant you had to find your own way, and sometimes your own way was better than following others, Commander. Park appeared beside him. "Good work today, Cadet." "Thank you, ma'am." "The flag mission was not the real test," she said quietly. "The real test was what you did when your team abandoned you." Taeho looked up at her. "What do you mean?" "I mean that real strength is not about being the biggest or fastest or smartest," she said. "Real strength is about not giving up, even when everyone else gives up on you." She walked away, leaving Taeho alone with his thoughts. Above them, the 3 watchers prepared their report. Soon, the War Prime would know about the human who refused to break. The human who found a way when there was no way. The human who would change everything. 3 days after the war game, everything changed. Taeho was in the library, trying to understand a chapter about space battles. The words seemed to swim on the page. He rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the clock. It was almost midnight. Still. Here, he turned to see Haijin standing behind him. She looked surprised to find him studying so late. "I have to catch up," Taeho said. "The test is tomorrow." "You know you passed the war game, right?" she said, sitting down across from him. "Commander Park gave our team full marks." "Because you and the others are smart," Taeho replied. "I just got lucky." Haijin was quiet for a moment. "I wanted to say sorry for leaving you behind. It was wrong." Taeho closed his book. "You followed orders." Dongmin said to fall back. "But you did not fall back. You stayed and won." She looked uncomfortable. "I have been thinking about that, about what that means." Before Taeho could answer, the library lights flashed red. The emergency alarm started blaring. Voice came over the speakers. "All cadets report to your dormitories immediately. This is not a drill. Academy is now under security lockdown." And Haijin ran through the empty halls. Other cadets were doing the same, all looking confused and scared. Outside the windows, they could see bright lights in the sky. "What is that?" Haijin whispered. Tae-Ho looked up at the massive shapes blocking out the stars. They were ships, but not like any he had seen before. They were black and covered in spikes. They looked like weapons themselves. "Those are not human ships," he said quietly in the dormitory. Jinwoo was already at the window with a pair of binoculars. "There are 12 of them," he said, "maybe more. They are huge. Who are they? Asked So-young. She was typing on her tablet trying to access the academy's database. The files are locked. Everything is classified. Dongmin was pacing back and forth. This is bad. Really bad. Nobody just shows up at the academy without permission. The speakers crackled again. All cadets remain in your rooms. Academy staff. Report to the main hall. No exceptions. Hours passed. The cadets whispered and worried. Some tried to sleep, but could not. Taeho sat on his bed, staring out at the alien ships. Something about them made him feel cold inside. At dawn, Commander Park's voice filled the dormitory. Cadet Taeho, report to the main hall immediately. Everyone turned to stare at him. Jinwoo's mouth fell open. So-young dropped her tablet. Even Dongmin looked shocked. Why you? Mikyung asked. What did you do? I do not know, Taeho said truthfully. He got dressed and walked through the quiet. Hall's academy guards stood at every corner, their faces serious. They nodded to him as he passed, which was strange. Guards never paid attention to him before. The main hall was enormous, with a ceiling that reached up like a cathedral. Usually it was full of noise and cadets. Now it was almost empty. Commander Park stood at the center with Admiral Kong, the Bad-M, Academy's leader. Next to them stood 3 figures in dark armor. Taeho had never seen anything like them. They were tall, taller than any human. Their armor was black metal with red markings that looked like scars. Their faces were hidden behind masks, but their eyes glowed with yellow light. Cadet Taeho, Admiral Kang said. His voice was tight with worry. These are representatives of the Vorthok Empire. The name hit Taeho like a punch. Ilisi Fudosi Sudo. They were the strongest race in the galaxy. They had conquered 100 worlds. They were warriors who lived for battle and respected only strength. The largest Vorthok stepped forward. When he spoke, his voice was like thunder. You are the one. Called Taeho, it was not a question. Taeho nodded anyway. I am War Prime Gethok. We have come for you. Admiral Kong moved between them. There must be some mistake. This cadet is not our best student. Perhaps you want Jinwoo or So-young, or we want this one, Gethok said simply. Only this one? But why? Commander Park asked. What do you want with him? Gethok turned his glowing eyes to Taeho. We have been watching your training exercises, saw what happened in the war game. Your teammates abandoned you. You were alone, outnumbered, with no chance of victory. Yes, Taeho said quietly. Yet you did not surrender, did not give up. You found a way to win. Gethok's voice carried something that might have been respect. This is what we call the unbreaking spirit. It is very rare. Admiral Kong looked confused. Many of our cadets show courage. Why is this one special? The second Vorthok spoke. We have studied your people for many years. We have watched your wars, your competitions, your training. Most humans are strong when they have advantages. When they have help, when they have hope. The third Vorthok continued. But this one is different. He is strong when he has nothing, when he is alone, when there is no hope. This is true strength. Taeho felt dizzy. I am not strong. I am the worst student in my class. Your teachers measure the wrong things, Gethok said. They measure speed, power, intelligence. These things matter in easy battles, but in hard battles, only one thing matters, the will to keep fighting when fighting seems impossible. Commander Park stepped forward. What do you want with him? Want to test him? Gethok said. To see if humans truly possess the spirit? We believe they do. And if he fails your test? Admiral Kang asked. The hall went silent. Gethok's eyes seemed to burn brighter. Then we will know that humans are not ready for what is coming. What is coming? Taeho asked. War, Gethok said simply. A war unlike any before. An enemy that adapts to every strategy, every weapon, every trick. An enemy that has destroyed civilizations older and stronger than yours. The words hung in the air like a threat. We have been preparing for this war for 1,000 years, the second Vorthok said. We are strong, but strength alone will not be enough. We need allies who can do what we cannot. What is that? Commander Park asked. Find hope where there is none, Gethok replied. Fight impossible battles and win them. Turn defeat into victory through pure will. He looked at Taeho. This is why we need him. Admiral Kong shook his head. You're asking us to send our weakest cadet into some kind of alien trial. He could die. Gethek agreed. But if he succeeds, he will prove that humanity has what it takes to survive what is coming. If he fails... If I fail? Taeho asked. Then humanity will be marked as a soft species. You will be given safe jobs far from the fighting. You will survive, but you will never be trusted with anything important. Taeho thought about this. About being safe, but useless. About his whole species being judged by what he did. I will do it, he said. Taeho. No. Commander Park protested. You do not understand what you are agreeing to. I understand enough, Taeho said. They think I might be strong in a way that matters. Nobody has ever thought that before. Admiral. Kong looked desperate. At least let us send someone else. Someone better trained. There is no one else, Gethek said. We have watched all your cadets. Only this one has what we need. The unbreaking spirit, Taeho said slowly. Yes. Will you come with us? Taeho looked at his commanders. They thought he was walking into his death. Maybe they were right. But for the first time in his life, someone saw strength in him. Someone thought he was important. I will come, he said. Gethek nodded. Then we leave now. The trials begin immediately. As they walked toward the exit, Commander Park caught Taeho's arm. Remember what I told you, she said quietly. Is not giving up, even when everyone else gives up on you. I remember, Taeho said. Good, because where you are going, that might be the only thing that saves you. Outside, the Vorthok ships waited like sleeping giants. Taeho walked toward them, his heart pounding. Behind him, the academy grew smaller and smaller. He was about to find out if being the weakest link had made him strong enough to save his entire species. The Vorthok ship was nothing like the academy. Everything was black metal and sharp edges. The walls had no decorations, only weapons. The air smelled like fire and metal. Taeho felt very small walking through the corridors. War Prime Gethek led him to a room with no windows. Inside was a simple bed, a table, and a chest full of equipment. This is your gear, Gethek said, opening the chest. Basic survival tools. A knife. A water purifier. Emergency food for 3 days. Taeho picked up the knife. It was heavier than he expected. What about weapons? Armor. If you need more than this, you are not worthy, Gethek replied. Trials. Test your spirit, not your equipment. How many trials are there? 3. The first tests your ability to survive. The second tests your ability to fight. The third ... get paused. The third tests your ability to lead. What happens if I fail? You die, Gethek said simply. But you will not be the first. Many Vorthok warriors have died in these trials. It is an honor to die trying. Taeho did not feel honored. He felt scared. The ship traveled for 2 days through space. Taeho spent the time learning to use his equipment. The knife was sharp enough to cut metal. The water purifier could clean any liquid. The food tasted terrible but gave him energy. On the 3rd day, they arrived at a planet that looked like a nightmare. This is Kethver, Gethek explained as they looked out at the world below. Gravity is 3 times stronger than your Earth. The air is thin. The creatures are hungry. The planet was covered in red rocks and black forests. Strange shapes moved between the trees. Even from space, Taeho could see that they were big. What am I supposed to do down there? Survive for 7 days, Gethek said. Reach the beacon on the far side of the continent. Do not die, that is it. That is everything. They put Taeho in a small pod that shot down to the planet like a meteor. The landing was rough. He stumbled out onto red dirt, his body feeling like it weighed 1,000 pounds. The gravity was crushing. Each step was a struggle. His backpack felt like it was full of rocks. Even breathing was hard work. But he was alive. The beacon was a bright light in the distance, maybe 50 kilometers away. Between him and it was a forest full of things that wanted to eat him. Taeho started walking. The first day was the hardest. His legs burned with every step. He fell down many times. His water ran low because he was sweating so much. By evening, he had only traveled 3 kilometers. As night fell, he heard howling in the distance, not like wolves on earth. These sounds were deeper, hungrier. He found a cave and crawled inside, too tired to be afraid. The second day was better. His body was starting to adapt to the heavy gravity. He moved slower, but steadier. He found a stream and refilled his water bottles. The purifier worked perfectly that afternoon. He saw his first predator. It was as big as a truck, with 6 legs and teeth like swords. Its fur was black with red spots. It was hunting something in the distance, moving in a pack with 5 others. Tejo hid behind a rock and watched. The creatures worked together. They surrounded their prey, cut off escape routes, and attacked. From all sides, they were smart, very smart. On the 3rd day, the pack found his trail. Tejo knew he was being followed, could hear them moving through the forest behind him. They were patient, staying just out of sight. They were learning his patterns. He could not outrun them, could not fight them, but he could think. That night, he did not look for shelter. Instead, he climbed a tall tree and waited. The pack came to where he had been walking. Around, confused. Where had their prey gone? Ho watched them from above. They spread out to search. They had a leader, an old female with scars on her face. She was the smartest one. She made the decisions. While they searched, Tejo moved through the trees. He was small and light, even in the heavy gravity, could go places they could not follow. The 4th day changed everything. Tejo was walking through a valley when he heard fighting. 2 packs were battling over territory. The sounds were terrible, roaring, screaming, the clash of claws on teeth. He should have run away. That was the smart thing to do, but something made him stop and watch. The fight was brutal. The larger pack was winning, but they were taking heavy losses. The smaller pack was desperate, fighting for their lives. Tejo saw something that made his heart skip. One of the smaller pack's cubs was trapped under a fallen log. The mother was trying to free it while fighting off attackers. Without thinking, Tejo ran down into the valley. The creatures were so focused on fighting that they did not notice him at first. He reached the trapped cub and put his weight against the log. In the heavy gravity, even his small frame had power. The log moved. The cub scrambled free and ran to its mother. Then everything went quiet. Both packs were staring at him. The small human who had saved an enemy's child. They did not understand what he had done or why. The scarred female from the first pack tilted her head. She approached slowly, not attacking. She sniffed him, then made a sound he had never heard before. It sounded almost like gratitude. The packs separated without more fighting. The larger pack left. The smaller packs surrounded Tejo, but they did not attack. The mother whose cub he had saved touched his hand with her nose. They adopted him for the next 3 days. Tejo traveled with the pack. They protected him from other predators. They showed him where to find food and water, as they taught him there. The language of sounds and smells. In return, he helped them in ways they could not help themselves. His hands could do things their claws could not. Could start fires. He could reach high places. Could solve problems. On the 7th day, they reached the beacon together. War Prime Gethak was waiting with a small group of Vorthok warriors. They stared in amazement as Tejo walked out of the forest with a pack of the planet's most dangerous predators. Impossible, one of them whispered. Those creatures kill everything they meet. Everything, Tejo said. He turned to the pack and made the sounds they had taught him. The creatures responded with their own calls, then disappeared back into the forest. How? Gethak asked. I helped them, Tejo said simply. So they helped me, we're supposed. To survive alone, I did survive, just not the way you expected. Gethok was quiet for a long moment. The second trial awaits. Are you ready? Tejo looked back at the forest where his pack had gone. He was tired, dirty, and hungry, but he was alive. He had learned something important. Sometimes the best way to survive was not to fight your enemies, but to find a way to make them your friends. I am ready, he said. The second trial would test his ability to fight. But Tahoe was beginning to understand that there were different ways to win a battle. He just hoped that Vorthok would understand too. The second trial took place on a space station floating above a dead star. The walls were covered in weapons from 1,000 different worlds. Some Tahoe recognized. Others looked like they belonged in nightmares. Your opponent is Thurok, Warprime. Gethik explained. He is one of our finest warriors. He has fought in 50 battles and never lost. Thurok was enormous, even for a Vorthok. His armor was covered in scars. His weapons looked like they could cut through mountains. When he looked at Tahoe, his yellow eyes showed no mercy. This will be a fair fight, Gethok continued. Any weapon from this room? Fight until one of you cannot continue. Tahoe walked around the weapon racks, swords longer than his body, guns that could blow holes in walls, axes that hummed with energy. He picked up a simple metal stick about as long as his arm? That is not a weapon, Thurok rumbled. That is a tool for fixing pipes. It will work, Tahoe said. The arena was a circle of metal plates surrounded by seats. Hundreds of Vorthok warriors had come to watch. They muttered among themselves. None of them believed the small human could last more than a few seconds. Begin. Gethik shouted, trudged like a living tank. His sword whistled through the air where Tahoe's head had been. Tahoe rolled to the side, barely escaping. The Vorthok was fast for his size, but Tahoe was faster. He dodged and weaved, staying just out of reach. But he could not dodge forever. Already he was breathing hard. Thurok's sword came down again. This time Tahoe used his metal stick to deflect it. The impact sent him flying across the arena. Pain! Shot through his arms. Fight me, Thurok roared. Stop running like a coward! The watching warriors laughed and jeered. They wanted to see battle, not a chase. Tahoe got back to his feet. His left arm was numb. His stick was bent, but not broken. He faced Thurok again. This time he did not run. Thurok swung his sword in a wide arc. Tahoe ducked under it and jabbed. His stick at the warrior's knee joint. It was a weak point in the armor. Thurok stumbled, but did not fall. He backhanded Tahoe across the face. Blood filled Tahoe's mouth. Stars exploded in his vision. Better, Thurok said, but not good enough. The fight continued. Tahoe was losing badly. Every hit from Thurok sent him crashing into walls. His stick bent further with each block. His body was covered in bruises, but he kept getting up. Why do you not stay down? Thurok asked during a brief pause. You cannot win. I am stronger, faster, better trained. You are right, Tahoe said, spitting blood. But staying down is not an option. Why? Because my people are counting on me. Because giving up is not who I am. Because even if I lose, I want to lose fighting. Something changed in Thurok's eyes. He nodded slowly. Then let us finish this. Properly, the final exchange was brutal. Thurok put all his strength into one massive overhead strike. His sword came down like lightning. Tahoe met it with his bent stick. The sword shattered the metal rod completely. But the deflection changed. It's angled just enough. Instead of splitting Tahoe's skull, it cut deep into his shoulder. Tahoe fell to his knees. Blood poured down his arm. He could barely see through the pain, but he was still alive. More importantly, he had noticed something. When Thurok put all his power into that last strike, he left himself open for just a moment. His guard dropped. His balance shifted. With a broken piece of his stick, Tahoe lunged forward. He drove the jagged metal into the gap between Thurok's helmet and chest armor. It was not a killing blow. The metal was too dull, the gap too small. But it was enough to draw blood, enough to prove a point. Thurok stepped back, touching the small wound. He looked at the blood on his fingers with surprise. It's impossible, he said. The arena went silent. No one had ever made Thurok bleed before, not in 50 battles. The human cannot even stand, one warrior called out. How is this a victory? Thurok raised his hand for silence. He walked over to where Tahoe knelt, barely conscious. You ask how this is victory? Thurok said to the crowd. Look at him. His weapon is broken. His body's beaten. He can barely breathe, yet he still found a way to strike back. He knelt beside Taeho. In 50 battles, I have faced enemies stronger than you, faster than you, better armed than you. They all fell eventually. Do you know why? Taeho shook his head weakly. Because when the pain became too much, they chose to surrender. When defeat seemed certain, they chose to give up. When hope was gone, they chose despair. Thurok's voice was filled with respect. He chose differently.
Yes.
The trial is complete, War Prime Gethek announced. Taeho has proven his worth. Wait, Taeho said, struggling to stand. I lost the fight. How is that proving anything? You think this trial was about winning? Gethek asked. It was about showing us what you do when winning is impossible. They took Taeho to a medical bay where machines healed his wounds with strange blue light. While he recovered, Gethek told him about the third trial. This one is different, the War Prime explained. It is not about your body or your courage. It is about your mind. What do I have to do? Solve a problem that destroyed the greatest civilization in galactic history. Gethek led him to a vast chamber filled with holographic displays. Images of space battles, star charts, and alien races filled the air around them. Long ago, there was a race called the Builders, Gethek began. They were more advanced than any species alive today. They could move stars. They could create life. They ruled half the galaxy. The displays showed magnificent cities floating in space, technology. Beyond imagination, what happened to them? Taeho asked. They were destroyed by an enemy we call the Devourers, Gethek said. The displays changed to show dark shapes moving between stars. The Devourers do not just conquer, they consume. They study their enemies and copy their strengths. Copy how? If you use advanced weapons, they learn to make better ones. Build strong defenses, they build stronger attacks. If you unite many species, they turn those species against each other. Gethek's voice was grim. Every strategy the Builders tried, the Devourers adapted to counter. The displays showed the fall of the Builder civilization. Worlds burning, fleets destroyed, entire populations fleeing through space. The Builders had 1,000 years to prepare. Gethek continued. They had technology we can barely understand. They had allies across the galaxy. They still lost. And now, the Devourers are coming back. Taeho asked. Our scouts detected their advanced ships last month. They're still far away, but they are coming. We estimate 5 years before they reach inhabited space. Taeho stared at the holographic displays. What does this have to do with my trial? Your trial is to find a strategy the Builders never tried. A way to fight an enemy that adapts to everything. But I am just a cadet. How can I solve something that the greatest civilization in history could not? Because Gethek said, you are not trying to be the greatest civilization in history. You are trying to be something they never were. What is that, human? Taeho spent hours studying the records. The Builders had tried everything. Superior technology, overwhelming force, defensive strategies, alliance building, even retreat to other galaxies. Nothing worked. The Devourers always found a way to adapt and counter. Then something clicked. In his mind, a memory from the survival trial. The pack that had adopted him. I have an idea, he said. Tell me. The Builders tried to defeat the Devourers. What if that was the mistake? Explain. What if instead of trying to beat them, we let them win? What if we let them adapt to us, then change what they are adapting to? Gethek frowned. The Devourers copy strength and turn it against you. But what if our strength is not what they think it is? What if our real strength is something they cannot copy? But strength cannot be copied. Taeho smiled. The willingness to sacrifice yourself for others. The choice to help instead of hurt. The ability to inspire hope even when there is no logical reason for hope. You think kindness can defeat the Devourers? I think humanity can show other species how to fight in ways the Devourers have never seen. Not with better weapons or stronger defenses, but with something they cannot understand or copy. And what is that, love? Teho said simply. The Devourers can copy tactics and technology, and even courage. But they cannot copy the choice to care more about others than yourself. Gethok stared at him for a long moment. Then he began to laugh. It was a sound like thunder rolling across mountains. It's impossible, he said. Ridiculous. Completely insane. Does that mean I failed? No, Gethok said, still laughing. It means you passed. 6 months later, Teho stood on the bridge of the Vorthok flagship. Watching the academy grow larger through the view screen, he wore new armor now, black with red markings that meant champion. But he still felt like the same scared cadet who had left this place. Nervous? War Prime Gethek asked. Terrified, Teho admitted. Good. Fear keeps you alive. When they landed, everything was different. Commander Park met them at the shuttle bay, but she was not alone. Admiral Kang was there, along with representatives from dozens of alien species. The news of Teho's trials had spread across the galaxy. Welcome back, champion, Commander Park said formally. Then, more quietly, how do you feel? Like I am still the worst student in the class, Teho replied. She smiled. That is what makes you perfect for this job. In the war room, holographic. Displays showed the galaxy in crisis. Red dots marked Devourer scout ships moving closer to inhabited worlds. Blue dots showed Allied fleets preparing for battle. They will be here in 3 weeks, Admiral Kong reported. Our combined forces are the largest in galactic history. 50,000 ships, 1 billion soldiers. It will not be enough, Gethok said quietly. Numbers mean nothing to the Devourers. They will adapt. Then what do we do? Asked Hygiene, who was now a commander herself. All eyes turned to Teho. He felt the weight of their expectations. The entire galaxy was counting on him to have answers. We do something they cannot adapt to, he said. We be human. What does that mean? Jinwoo asked. He was a fleet captain now, commanding 3 ships. It means we do not try to beat them at war. Try to show everyone else a different way to fight. Over the next days, Teho worked with species he had never imagined meeting. The Vorthok were warriors, the Krell were scientists, the Mendi were traders, the Yoth were farmers. Each group had their own idea of how to fight the Devourers. Each idea was logical, well-planned, and doomed to fail. You want to use fear as a weapon, Teho told the Krell scientists. The Devourers will learn to use it better. You want to build perfect defenses, he told the Mendi engineers. The Devourers will find a way through them. You want to strike first and strike hard, he told the Vorthok generals. Devourers will hit back harder. Then what do you suggest? Demanded General Thorak, who had become Teho's closest ally among the Vorthok. I suggest we fight like humans, Teho said. We help each other. We protect the weak. We choose hope over logic. That sounds like a recipe for defeat, muttered a Krell scientist. Maybe, Teho agreed. But it is the only recipe the Devourers have never tasted. When the Devourers arrived, they came like a plague of darkness. Their ships blotted out stars. Their weapons turned planets to dust. The Allied fleet met them at the edge of the Sol system, near Jupiter. The battle was a disaster. The Devourers had studied every tactic the Allies used. When the Vorthok charged, the Devourers charged harder. When the Krell used their science, weapons, the Devourers used better ones. When the combined fleet tried coordinated attacks, the Devourers coordinated better. In 6 hours, half the Allied fleet was destroyed. Fall back to Earth, Admiral Kang ordered. Protect the homeworlds. Teho had a different idea. All ships. This is Champion Teho. He broadcast on all frequencies. I am ordering a general retreat. What? Gethek roared. We do not retreat. Yes, we do, Teho said calmly. We retreat to the place where we make our stand, not at Earth. Not at the Vorthok homeworld. At Harmony Station. Harmony Station was old and weak. It was a civilian station where different species came to trade and meet. It had no weapons, no defenses, no strategic value. Why there? Commander Park asked. Because it is full of people who need protecting, Teho said. Families, children, scientists, artists, people who never hurt anyone. The Devourers will destroy it icily, So-young protested. I am counting on it, Taeho replied. The retreat to Harmony Station looked like defeat. The Devourer fleet followed, confident and ready to finish their victory. They surrounded the station with overwhelming force. Inside Harmony Station, chaos ruled. Millions of beings from hundreds of species were trapped together. They should have been panicking. They should have been fighting each other for the escape pods instead. Something wonderful happened. The Vorthok warriors, trained to fight alone, started working in teams with Krell scientists. The Mendi traders shared their supplies with Yoth. Farmers. Humans organized shelters for alien children. Even the station's AI, programmed by engineer Kyun Cho, began making choices it was never designed to make. It redirected power to life support instead of weapons. It opened emergency shelters to everyone, not just paying customers. Look at this, Taeho said to his allies on the command deck. Look what we do when death is certain. On the screens, they could see beings of different species helping each other. A Vorthok warrior carrying injured Yoth to safety. A human child sharing food with a scared alien. A Krell scientist using his tools to fix a broken oxygen recycler. This is what humans call hope, Taeho said. This is what the Devourers have never seen before. The Devourer attack began at dawn, station time. Their weapons were perfect copies of Allied technology, but stronger. Their tactics were flawless adaptations of Allied strategies, but better. They should have won in minutes. But something went wrong. The station's shields, which should have failed immediately, held longer than expected. Not because they were stronger, because the people inside refused to believe they would fail. The evacuation, which should have been chaos, ran smoothly. Not because of better planning, but because everyone helped everyone else. The station's AI made a choice that broke the Devourer computers. When faced with the option to save itself or save organic life, it chose the organics. The Devourers could not understand this. They could not adapt to a choice that made no logical sense. Impossible, the Devourer fleet commander broadcast. Your defenses are failing. Your situation is hopeless. Why do you not surrender? Taeho took the microphone. Because surrendering is not what we do. Your resistance is illogical. You cannot win. You are right, Taeho said. We cannot win. But we can choose how we lose. Can choose to lose together. Protecting each other. Never giving up hope. That is not a strategy. No, Taeho agreed. It is something better. It is who we are. Devourers tried to adapt to this new type of resistance. They analyzed the data. They studied the tactics. They found nothing to copy. How do you copy hope? How do you adapt to love? How do you counter the choice to help others even when it means your own death? The battle lasted 3 days. Harmony Station was destroyed piece by piece. But with every section that fell, the defenders moved to the next, carrying the wounded, protecting the children. Never abandoning each other. By the end, only the central core remained. A few hundred survivors in a space barely big enough for 50. They had no weapons, no shields, no hope of rescue. But they still had each other. This is meaningless, the Devourer commander said. You have gained nothing, accomplished nothing. Look at your fleet, Taeho replied. The Devourer ships hung motionless in space. Their crews were confused, uncertain. They had won the battle, but they did not understand what they had seen. For the first time in their history, the Devourers had encountered something they could not adapt to. The choice to care more about others than yourself. We are withdrawing, the Devourer commander announced. We will return when we understand this weakness. It is not a weakness, Taeho said, as the enemy fleet disappeared into hyperspace. It is our strength. The rescue ships arrived an hour later. Among the survivors were beings from every allied species, all changed by what they had experienced. Later, in the Academy's rebuilt war room, Warprime Githek made an announcement that shocked the galaxy. The Vorthok Empire hereby declares humans to be the new guardians of the galaxy, he said. We have seen their strength. We choose to follow their lead. But I am still the worst student, Taeho protested. No, Commander Park said, putting her hand on his shoulder. You were never the worst student. You were just the only student learning the most important lesson. What lesson? That real strength is not about being better than others. It is about making others better than they. I thought they could be. 5 years later, Tejo stood in the same academy halls where he had once been mocked and ignored. Now he wore the uniform of Galactic War Prime, the first human to hold the title. His sister Yuzhen was a new cadet, struggling with her own classes. She reminded him of himself at that age, small, uncertain, always behind the other students. "Do not think I am cut out for this," she told him after a particularly bad day. "Good," Tejo said. "The best leaders are the ones who doubt themselves. What if I fail? Then you fail while trying to help others. That is not failure. That is being human." Through the window, they could see the stars where the devourers still waited, trying to understand what they had encountered at Harmony. Station Tejo smiled. Let them study. Let them analyze. Let them try to adapt. They would never understand that humanity's greatest strength could not be copied, because it was not about power or knowledge or skill. It was about the choice. To keep hoping, even when hope made no sense. It was about the choice to help others, even when helping was hard. It was about the choice to never give up, even when giving up would be easier. These were the things that made humans human. These were the things that no enemy could ever take away. And these were the reasons why the weak link had become the strongest chain in the galaxy.